Good evening! Tonight we're gonna go through some advanced features in Automaton vehicle used in the making of this scene. We're gonna be also using Automaton vehicle on the camera itself, giving us this follow effect, and we're gonna end by showing the new dynamic body effect in Automaton vehicle 3.0. Let's get started. So this will be an advanced tutorial, so I recommend checking the video description below and going through the basic tutorial first if you are new to Automaton vehicle. With that out of the way, let's get started by setting up this vehicle by selecting the four wheels and the body object. For the path, I have already prepared path Cybertruck 1 for this vehicle, and the terrain is this long road I have also prepared. So for starters, let's select the body object, and this will be my translate object, and the wheels will be translate enabled, spin enabled, and suspension enabled for the back wheels, and all of the effects including steer for the front wheels. I have already animated the travel distance just to avoid doing slow things in this advanced tutorial. So if I hit play in the timeline, I will see that my object is already moving. There you go. So let's do exactly the same with the Cybertruck number 2 that I have already prepared. Quick setup here. The path for this one is path Cybertruck 2, which is only slightly different than the first path, just to give it a little bit of variation. Terrain will be shared, so same as before. And translate for the body, translate spin and suspension for the back wheels, and translate spin, suspension and steer for the front wheels. Okay, this is also already animated, so if I hit play again, I can see that the vehicles are following each other in a kind of convoy. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be using Automaton on the camera itself. So I have already prepared the camera here. And this setup is pretty simple. So we have an empty object and a camera object. The camera object is parented to the empty object, and I have also moved the camera up a little bit. That's it. So let's select the empty object, which will be my only automaton object in this case. So create automaton. This will have no wheels, just the empty will act like a kind of body. Okay, so the path will be path cam, which again is only slightly different than the other two. And the terrain, same as before. I have already animated it, so we only need to enable translate for the camera parent empty and go into camera view by pressing 0 on the numpad. Let's hit play and see what happens. So as you can see, it's quite jumpy for now, and this is due to a couple of reasons. So let's hit pause for now, and if we go into one of the vehicle settings, we can see that the wheelbase and the track width have been already automatically calculated. So wheelbase for this vehicle has been found to be 3.8 meters and the track width 1.4 meters. This is done automatically by Automaton as you go and add the wheels. However, the camera rig does not have any wheels. For that reason, we're gonna have to disable the automatic calculation in the wheelbase and track width settings, and we're gonna add it manually. So let's start by adding the same settings that our Cybertruck vehicles have. So 3.8 meters for the wheelbase and 1.4 meters for the track width. So let's go back to the camera rig and maybe hit playback and watch as I type 3.8 as my wheelbase and 1.4 for my track width. So now it suddenly got much smoother, and this is because the size of the vehicle will totally change how the ride will be. So for example, if we had a little toy car riding across the bumpy terrain, it would jump a lot. But if the vehicle has a large base, that itself will smooth the ride a bit. Okay, so the next things that I want to go through are exaggerate a couple of effects. So for example, let's hit pause for a second here. Let's select the front wheel of this car, and there should be some automatic steering going on already because the steer is enabled and the wheel steer strength is set as 1. However, it's I would like to visually to see it more, just so it looks cool. Okay, so normally we can control from a limited range of 0 to 2. 2 being the kind of an exaggerated amount. However, if I want way more than that, I can also type it in. So for example, I'm gonna set 5 or even 10, and you can see how if I close in it, as soon as I type something greater, the wheel will turn. So let's do the same for the vehicle in the back. This is probably not very realistic, but it will help us see the effect better, and in animation, well, that's kind of what it counts sometime. So let's hit play again. No, maybe I exaggerated a bit. Let's dial it back to 5. Yeah, 5 sounds good. Okay, another effect that I would like to exaggerate is the automatic roll calculation of the body. So for example, if I go to the body object and check the automatic roll strength, it's set to 1. This means that it is already doing a little bit of roll on each corner. But I will also exaggerate this effect. So for example, let's press 10, and you can see how the vehicle immediately turned a little bit more. Same for the one in the back. Okay, now let's go to the camera object. Remember, the camera is also an automaton. So I will also like the automatic roll strength to be heavily exaggerated, just to give it a more cinematic effect in the curves. So let's hit play again, and instead of 1, let's do something crazy like 40, or maybe even 50. And you will be able to see how in the corners our camera is tilting quite a bit. There you go. It's very noticeable here. This is what a car would do. So the roll happens in the direction. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, in the direction of the corner, but as the mass of the vehicle kind of doesn't want to change direction. But for example, if we were riding on a bike, right, like a motorbike, then the roll effect would be inverted, because motorcycles follow the roll of the curve. So I could do that by typing in -50 as the automatic roll strength value. So that's kind of a motorcycle effect. I kind of like it, but I'm gonna go back to +50 for the regular vehicle effect. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing, as promised, would be the body dynamics system, which is new in Automaton Vehicle 3.0. The body dynamics will not only add a very nice bounce effect, especially noticeable in the as the vehicle starts advancing or braking, like here. So let's add it to, actually let's add it to the camera first. So I have the camera empty object selected, and you will see how as soon as I increase the elasticity to 1, we now have a much smoother effect in the camera. This is due to dynamics, since the dynamics are kind of eating away all the unnecessary bounces in the road. There you go. So let's do the same with the wheels. With the other two vehicles. Just set elasticity from 0 to 1, and same with the other vehicle. You will notice it here. Actually, I'm gonna exaggerate it in the vehicle in the front by setting elasticity to 2, and you will see it. Yeah, I think that's pretty visible. Not only while the vehicle is moving, it kind of bounces around, but also when it brakes, it doesn't break. The body of the vehicle doesn't break instantly, but the suspension has to take a little bit to settle, and that's pretty cool. I'm gonna exaggerate the system even more by removing the damping. This is of course not very nice, but if I remove the damping effect completely, my body object will keep bouncing for a while. And the final setting is stiffness. So stiffness, if I have a high stiffness, the suspension effect will be pretty rigid, so it tends to look like a faster movement, like when you hit a rigid bar of steel, and when the stiffness is set to a lower amount, the suspension effect is slower, right? So anyway, I recommend starting by setting everything to 1. So 1, 1, 1. Same for the other vehicle. There you go. Yeah. Okay, so if everything is set to 1, as I said, it's a good starting point, except if you want to exaggerate something. So for example, I'm gonna set these guys to 1.5 elasticity, just to be able to see the effect a little bit stronger in this example. When you change your settings, it is highly recommended that you let the animation play at least one complete run through the entire frame range. So from 0 to 450 in this case. This is so that the dynamic effect is correctly baked in. And now I can go ahead and scroll back or jump to different parts of the animation without any problem. So if I do this without the full bake, or if I change stiffness or damping at this moment, weird things could happen, like the vehicles would kind of jump around. But just hit play and let it run through a complete cycle of the frame range. At this point we can save the scene, and the scene is ready to be rendered. Alright, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.